Welcome back in continuation with the growth and development of agriculture in the time period 1950 to 1990. And in this, we will talk about the problems, the general problems that we've already studied. It's just to summarize the problems that we saw in agriculture, besides the rising population and the outmoded methods. Then we also know about the disguised unemployment, seasonal unemployment, and all that. So just go through this. It's quite simple. And if you get a question as what are the problems that beset Indian agriculture, you can answer with these points in view. Okay, so have a look while I tell you about each of these. First is the rapid growth of population. So when there's a rapid growth of population, there'll be increasing pressure on the limited supply of cultivable land. And this has resulted in subdivision of land holdings, and there has been what will we call an unfavorable land-man ratio. And so the area of cultivated land per cultivator has declined from as it was less, from 0.43 hectare to 0.143 hectare in say 2014-15. As we see, 72% of the total land holdings in India are of the size below you can see 2 hectares. And if the land holdings are small, as we have pointed out earlier, productivity of land is much lower here in India as compared to the developed countries. And the next is the traditional outlook of farmers. We are of course we are ignorant, we are illiterate, we are so superstitious, and because we are all this, so it stands in the way of adoption of modern technology in agriculture. And unless this socio-economic outlook of the farmers, this traditional conservative outlook of the farmers is changed, it is very difficult to bring about any improvement in agriculture. And then we have this, what we call is the dependence on monsoons. And in agriculture, nature still dominates. As we pointed out earlier also, it's a gamble to monsoons. And the rains are uncertain in India. Sometimes they are insufficient, or they are so insufficient that there's a drought, and sometimes it rains so much that there are heavy floods. And this causes both widespread damage and destruction. And the important thing that will surprise is that only 45% of agricultural land has permanent irrigation facility. And then we also we can't withstand some natural calamities like hailstorm, frost, or attack by pests and insects, which is a very common occurrence in India. That also is there. So then we have the defective land tenure system, and it's standing in the way of its development in agriculture. Now, even after abolition of zamindari system and enactment of tenancy reforms, the position, enactment of tenancy laws, that is, the position of tenants is very bad, far from satisfactory. The cultivator has to pay high rent to the landlords and is subject to frequent ejectment by the landlord. That means the landlord asks them to leave anytime, whenever they feel like. Okay, then we have So, and you know what? Then the tenants don't want to make any improvement on the land, even if they want to, because they are so uncertain about the behavior of the zamindar. And then, of course, we also talked about these uneconomic holdings. We talked they are less than 2 hectares. Well, that is there. And this is again, it comes in the way of reaping the benefits of economies of scale, that is, economies of large scale production. And so, another thing, so we can't use really mechanization of agriculture becomes very difficult. So we can only or cultivation is generally carried out by labor intensive techniques. And the other point you can see is lack of credit and marketing facilities. So because farmers are illiterate, they are not they don't know, and the institutional credit, that means credit from banks and cooperatives and all, are so inadequate that the Indian farmers are exploited at the hands of village money lenders for the supply of finance. They just go to them, and that is because of the lack of credit, though of course much has been done in this sphere, but not enough. And another thing is, we don't have organized marketing facilities, and cultivators are exploited at the hands of the middlemen. And generally it is found out, if you talk to them, that most of the cultivators depend on the village mahajans for the sale of their surplus production, and the mahajans are getting richer by the day at the expense of the poor farmers. And then you see that we have outdated agricultural techniques. For example, wooden plows, and then bullocks are still used by majority of farmers. And we don't use fertilizers and new high yielding variety seeds. They are limited, and that is why the productivity is low. Then we have a lot of we have this unemployment problem, disguised and seasonal. Disguised means that people who work, there are more people that are required on the land. So suppose 5 people are required on the land and 10 are working, and the agricultural production is say 100 quintals, it remains the same even if you take away 5 of them. So this proves that there was disguised unemployment there. And another thing is, and according to an estimate, 1 out of 4 persons in rural areas is disguisedly unemployed. So he does not contribute anything to production. Just imagine. And then Indian agriculture suffers from the problem of seasonal unemployment. That means people work only for a limited days in a year due to seasonal nature of the work in agriculture. And an important thing is that we really don't have a good agricultural research institutes as well, if we in comparison to what is required. And even if research is being conducted, it's carried out, it's not made available to the farmers in their language or in the way they want it. They want people to explain in a better manner. No, it is not given to them. So it's very difficult for them to understand. And of course, there are crop losses, as we just pointed out, like for example, on account of weeds, insects, crop diseases, untimely rains, droughts, and all this reduces agricultural productivity. So these are some of the problems that beset Indian agriculture, and if we address them, surely agricultural production will increase.